Hello everybody. Today I'm going to explain what is silence. So silence is the absence of ambient audible sound. Silence can be created either due to lack of sound or it can be the result of active noise cancellation. Sometimes noise beyond the human hearing range can also be considered silence relative to the other animals which can actually listen to those sounds. Silence is subjective and relative. Subjective because what is a silent condition for one person may not be silent for other people. And relative because, for example, relative to the traffic noise on the streets, my bedroom is a lot quieter, is a lot silent. And relative to my bedroom, the anechoic chamber is a lot quieter. So that's how it's relative in nature. So silence is all around us, but silence doesn't have any waveform because silence is not a wave. It's basically nothing. It's lack of waveform, lack of sound. So if you do plot a spectrum, you're just going to get nothing. And we can have near silent conditions such as woods, open plains, anechoic chambers. I would stress the word near silent because there is still a medium around, there is still air around, and there is always disturbance. So it's not absolutely silent. So I did perform an experiment in my bedroom. It got a little quieter during the night, so I did capture the sound pressure level. It came out average of 34 decibel with a minimum and maximum of 28 and 38. And I did plot the spectrograph. So as you can see here, the lower frequency regions are dominating because it's just quiet, but luckily our ears do not respond well in those low frequency regions. So basically, if you were to hear this sound, you'd basically hear nothing. You'd feel your ears are blocking, but there's always that Brownian noise around, which is the background noise. Now, this spectrograph doesn't have the A weighting correction. If it did have, then you would see the bass region far below. So what is the quietest place on Earth? Well, definitely it's a anechoic chamber, no doubt about it. An anechoic chamber in Orfield Laboratories in the US held the world record for the quietest place with -9 decibel ambient sound. Participants reported hearing their heartbeat, breath, and blood flow. Now, I personally have been in an anechoic chamber. It's a semi-anechoic chamber. The floor is a hard surface for testing vehicles, while the other 5 surfaces of the room have wedges. And it had an ambient sound pressure level of 25 to 30 decibel, and I did hear heartbeat, my own heartbeat. But I couldn't hear my breath or blood flow because it turns out that human breathing sound is around 10 decibel, meaning you need to have a noise floor way below that in order to even listen to that. So yes, if the ambient level is around -9 decibel, definitely you'd be hearing your own breath. And for example, another insight, noise produced by air molecules colliding with each other at room temperatures around -24 dBA, way lower. And the record for the quietest place on Earth has just been broken down by Microsoft with -20 decibel. So what if the quietest place on Earth was still not quite enough? What if we need even more silence? Well, you need to go to a vacuum because a vacuum is a space devoid of matter and sound can just not survive in vacuum. It needs a medium to propagate. So if sound cannot exist in a vacuum, well, then it's quieter, way quieter. Any vacuum chamber would be way quieter than any anechoic chamber because there is just no sound and there is no medium. There is no disturbance. Unfortunately, we cannot verify the quietness because we can't survive in a vacuum. Alright, let's study about sound in a vacuum. So we all know from our high school experiments that sound cannot travel in a vacuum. So we'll recreate that experiment but with slight modifications. So first we have a glass jar here. The glass jar is placed on a wooden table. The glass jar is connected to a vacuum pump which will create the necessary vacuum inside the glass jar. An alarm clock is placed inside the glass jar. It is set to ring moments after a vacuum is created. So let's say the vacuum has been created and the alarm clock rings. Well, as sound cannot travel through a vacuum, there will be no airborne sound inside the glass jar. But the clock is actually resting on the base of the glass jar. So if the clock is made up of metal, the metal is literally touching the glass jar and the glass jar is also touching the wooden base. So there is a path here, a path through which sound can travel. And that's how sound travels out of this glass jar, through structural path. So there is a structure-borne sound here. Remember, medium need not be just air. Any material, any matter is a medium for sound waves to travel. So in this case, sound is traveling through the metal, through the glass, and then through the wood. So in this case, yes, sound still travels, but it is not defying any laws of physics. It is not defying the fact that it cannot travel through vacuum. It is just traveling through a structural path. Now, if the alarm clock were suspended in the middle, well, there would be no structural sound because, there is no structural connection. So we need a large space such that there is no structural interaction. Either we can build a large lab or we can go to space, as space is abundant. So let's talk about vacuum quality, because vacuum quality depends on the amount of matter remaining in the system. So a high quality vacuum is the one that has very little matter left in it, and a low quality vacuum is the one with more matter left in it. But even a low quality vacuum is not sufficient for us as humans to survive or sound waves to propagate. That makes us and sound waves alike. So here's a list of the vacuum quality. So the standard atmosphere in which we're living in is around 100,000 Pascal or 1 atmosphere, and there are like 2.5 to 10 to the power 19 molecules per centimeter cube. That's a lot. As you go down the list, you see the number of molecules decreasing. On the surface of Moon, it's just 400,000 molecules per centimeter cube. And if you look at the interplanetary space, let's say between Earth and Mars, there are just 11 molecules per centimeter cube. That's like way stronger than the strongest vacuum ever created on Earth. And as you go further down the list, the number keeps decreasing. So for example, interstellar space, you just have 1 molecule per centimeter cube. And the biggest winner is intergalactic space. For example, somewhere between Milky Way and Andromeda galaxy, you can find regions where you have just 1 molecule per meter cube. That's like the holy grail of vacuum. That's how perfect a vacuum can ever get. Now let's look at different vacuum qualities in our universe. So the first is the interplanetary space. So if you have a 1 centimeter cube, you're going to have like 11 molecules in that region. The next is the interstellar space. If you have 1 centimeter cube, you're going to have just 1 molecule in that region. And finally, you have the intergalactic space. So if you have a 1 meter cube, you can have just 1 molecule in that region. So this is really huge. You can compare this to 1 person living on the entire planet Earth. So a molecule is very small relative to a 1 meter cube. And in this region, the only source of disturbance is this molecule collides with another molecule, which has a very low probability. So this also means that this is the quietest region in the entire universe. So if you were to place a microphone in this region or a sound level meter in this region, basically you should see nothing because there is literally nothing here. Let's just say we did place a sound level meter and let's see what the results look like. So the sound level meter is just not going to move at all because there is no sound, and if there is no sound, the spectrum is also going to look blank because there is nothing. Alright, thank you for watching this video. Now listen to the absolute silence and have a great day.